So we'll get started. This is your opportunity to share on the initiatives you feel would be beneficial to be undertaking within the next 6 months. We'd love to hear from as many people as possible. So we've got till 1:30, so we have 25 minutes. So I guess what I'll do is I'll open up the floor to whoever would like to have their input first, and we'll go around the room, and hopefully everybody will have a chance to give some input, and we'll move from there. So anybody would like to go first?
I'll go.
Oh, Wendy, awesome, thank you.
So the Digital Main Street is focused on the Main Street, right? So what I would really like to see is some help for those people that are not on a Main Street. We've got all kinds in there that are looking for help, but they don't seem to qualify for that funding.
Yeah, that's a good point, Wendy, for sure. So again, this is being recorded, so we'll any of these ideas that come about, we'll obviously be forwarding on to the team for them to consider. So great.
So I see we have Cindy from actually a squad on. So Cindy, if you disagree with what I'm saying, if that's not correct, then please let me know.
So we've been in the capacity for about 3.5 weeks now. This is week 4, reaching out to a lot outside of the Brockville area. I'm Rideau Lakes, Westport, Athens, and we're just basically touching base right now and getting them to know the program. 90% of them don't know the program, don't know about it. How do I qualify? So with the grant process, with that window closing at the end of November, that is our crux right now. It's prioritizing who looks like they are going to qualify at the max, with jumping through all of those hoops and reaching out to them and trying to help them through the process. The thing that we're finding is time. Do they have time? Right? I mean, even just look at a hairdresser, for example, they are slower in their process because of the safety measures they have to take. So you take a look at that, and then you add something that is probably about a 4-hour investment just over the next 10 days or so. That's rather daunting, right, for a small business, especially a sole proprietor. So education also is the next part of that. So we are beyond the grant. We're available at their disposal for about 5 hours, depending on the capacity and the demand, to consult with them. So that is another door that is a great option for opening up. Quite possibly our program may be extended. So that would be awesome. We have on our plate right now just for the grant. Looking at those people that are high priority and probably look like they could qualify very well, meeting the criteria, that's 130 businesses. I believe Rebecca and I have probably reached about 90 of those right now. We both have reached out to 45 to 50, I think, of which maybe about 15% have applied. Because we have the software we're in with the CRM, and we can see the process. So that's really super cool, right? And they don't necessarily know that we can see, because that's out of our hands anyway. That's nothing that we can do but just put our reports in.
Okay, thanks.
So we like to follow up with them, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we are with that. So the next 10 days, the big push is to try and get people qualified and to touch base and keep touching and keep up with them and encourage them to go through the process for the grant. After that, December 1st, unless they extend the grant to the end of December, we are going to just be marketing our help, our expertise, but they still have to log in and apply and be assessed. That's a 15-minute process, right?
Okay.
They have to be in the CRM for us to be able to offer that service. So yeah, so you're right. I think I'm seeing less than I expected. And maybe, I don't know the reason why, but I'm thinking that maybe they're not meeting the criteria. But we are seeing, of those who do apply and go through the whole process, I have not seen one yet denied. Only in my pool, it showed up as Delta, but it was Delta BC. So someone in BC was trying, and automatically I saw it. In the next hour or so, it came up denied. I'm like, okay, that totally makes sense. So that's where we are pretty much with the program.
Okay.
Can I ask
Hope that helped
something?
you. Sure.
Sorry, Cindy.
Hi, Pam.
Hi, Cindy. So for me, even at the chamber, I find it very confusing with the digital, and I was just over at Haley's office,
Yeah.
in between kind of watching
Yeah.
the summit, but,
Yeah.
you know, everybody seems to think that it's just for downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And for Brockville, it was just, you know, rolled out for the downtown, but, you know, for
Yeah.
my membership is outside of, you know, I
Yes.
have members downtown in the catchment. So I
Yep.
think there's gaps in between there, or is the communication, the key thing is it is open to
Correct.
all businesses, but there's no really communication of that.
Right. So there is confusion. I totally agree. Zoning dictates. That's one of the criteria, right? So if it's a
Yes.
C1, a CC, depending on each township, each municipality may have a different designation for that zoning.
Okay.
But if you are a commercial of some sort, so me, for example, perfect example, Westport, it's built like a wedge almost, right? There's Concession Street, which is the highway that comes in. They're
Mhm.
highway commercial, they do qualify. If you're a zoned designated highway commercial, there's also a CC, which is commercial core, right?
Okay.
And there's also some municipalities have C1, right? Some of them will have a C2. It all depends on what they designate it. So my advice to anybody who does not understand, and it may even be gray to us, I get Jim here to confirm because that's one of his specialties as
Mhm.
well. I just suggest that the business owner go ahead and fill out the application. Just go ahead. Even if you don't complete, it's going to be a no. It's 0%. You're going to get it, right?
Yeah.
So if you do
exactly.
at least apply, there is the option of that saying yes. What they do, what the group does in Toronto is if they have anything in question, they will go on to Google Maps and do an actual live view of the business. So as long as they have a placard or a sign outside and they do face a main route, I mean, some of the places I'm dealing with are four corners, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
there may
exactly.
be businesses on two of those corners. So if they go with their, Google Maps and look at the area, if they see one across the street is a commercial, right?
Mhm.
Property, or they're selling or whatever, then that kind of confirms that four corners in the middle of nowhere, kind of like Monkland, there's a Tim Hortons out in the middle of nowhere, right? Not
Yeah.
my territory, mind you, but that's a perfect example of it will qualify. So
Okay.
there are, and that is one of the number one questions right now is, do I qualify?
Yeah.
And that's one of the criteria that's sticking a lot of the applications.
Okay, perfect.
Hope that
Good
helped.
advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. So obviously, Digital Main Street is one thing, that initiative that we should continue, obviously, to undertake over the next 6 months. I think we're talking about this being potentially up at the end of November, so we need to get that extended so more people qualify and so on.
Yeah.
Any other initiatives out there that people would see as being useful, Karen?
So I think I saw on one of the other CFDCs that they almost hired a coordinator to coordinate all the coordinating agencies. So someone who could help the small businesses navigate. So I think it might have been a Cornwall CFDC, I'm not sure, but I think of all the stuff that Pam does for her businesses, the stuff that Wendy does, Digital Main Street. Is there an opportunity for, again, like some kind of a navigator, somebody who's not within any one of those organizations to become kind of an expert to go out to these businesses and help point them in the right direction? Because there's so much, and I kind of think of like the patient navigator model that hospitals have adopted recently. And I think Wendy might have alluded to this. what I'm seeing in the businesses that I'm working with is the stronger businesses have pivoted. They've seen their opportunities. I'm really concerned about the folks who don't seem to qualify for anything, who will close because they just cannot navigate. I think they need a customized solution, some customized supports, not always financial, but it's accessing these people who are not marginal. I don't want to infer they're marginal, but they're smaller. And they're deriving livelihood from their businesses, may or may not have employees, but I see a whole sector of businesses that we are going to lose because they're in this gap. So those are kind of my two ideas. What I've kind of seen with the small businesses, and then just finding a way to help connect these smaller businesses with the resources that are and the programs that are out there, because I sense they are still totally overwhelmed by what has happened, and they're really having difficulty moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, good point, Karen. Navigating through this certainly is a challenge for many small businesses. Where to go, what to do, how to apply, all this paperwork and all that kind of stuff. So, very good point. Other comments that we have as far as other initiatives we'd like to see within Leeds Grenville?
I have a question, or I have a point. It was interesting to listen to Vic Fideli about the Ontario Made. And it's been out for a couple of months, and I was reading a lot of it last night before the summit today. And it's interesting that there's a lot of products on it, but where's the launch of it? Like, they're talking about it, but there's no big launch of it. And I think this is a platform, and I should have asked the question today is this where the government is going to actually use all the time to buy their stuff? Because I hope it is. We should put that challenge to them when they're talking about their procurement. But yeah, it's great to have the sticker on and everything, but if not everybody knows about this great program. So I think the tools need to come out of the drawer, and so we can really market it and get our businesses, because in Leeds Grenville we've got so many great businesses that are Ontario made or Canadian made.
Right, absolutely. Great point. And to that point, I hadn't been on mylocalmarkets.ca. I don't know if anybody else has, but I popped in during the session just quickly, and it's incredible the stuff's on there. I had no clue that was there. And obviously we've been talking about it as we've led up to the summit. But anyway, I encourage you, if you haven't been on, check it out. It's quite amazing, the products that are there. Kathy, I know you had quite some input you wanted to give.
Yeah, one of the things I'm noticing is small business persons fatigue. I see that the overwhelming sense of data input that we had in the beginning seems to be continuing. And I'm thinking that the people that Karen was mentioning that may actually bite the dust there are emotionally fatigued to the point that they just can't handle anymore. If I wasn't as mature in business as I am, I'm sure I'd think about going home myself. And probably one of our, I'm not sure the word to use there is like our mental support people. We need to get them up to the forefront, because I'm sure some of these people aren't sleeping for weeks at a time. So it's a program that we need to get out there.
For sure. I'm going to call on Dan Stephen. He sees lots of small businesses and so on. Do you see any initiatives that you feel that might benefit our market, Dan? What's your input? What are you seeing?
Well, we're seeing that this has been mostly a kind of an unfair, if you want to call it, I'll even use that word, disruption to a lot of entrepreneurs, it's been a very good year for some of them, believe it or not, and others it's been very challenging. And it really relates to, are you part of the shutdown or not, is what we're seeing. So I mean, I have clients that are in manufacturing and in the business of selling goods that are having an absolute record year. You know, but the reality is it's almost unfair because it's at the expense of people in the tourism and the hospitality industries, which are, you know, I don't know how much longer they can hold on for. And the reality is, until there's a little bit more certainty of what's going to happen with that, it's so hard to even provide them with the support, because we just don't know if they're going to be opened again. You know, I have a client that has 5 very, very profitable hair salons. You know, I was speaking with him last week, and he said, you know, I'm only allowed to be 50% open, and I don't make money at 50% open. I didn't get into business to be 50% open, and he's getting the wage subsidy still, but again, you know, it's who knows where things are going to go, right? There's talk of a vaccine, but I mean, I hear we're not very high on the list of countries to get that at the beginning, so we could be in this for another year.
Right.
From an incentive perspective, we do. I work for the Business Development Bank. I do support a number of entrepreneurs in Kemptville area, and we do have a advisory services grant that is available to entrepreneurs right now who employ. I guess it would be targeted to more mid-market to larger companies, because it's no fewer than 15 employees and no greater than 500. So I do know there is still quite a handful of those that would probably be greater than 2 million in sales. But we are offering a $25,000 grant to those interested in technology assessment program to assess ways that those entrepreneurs can incorporate technology and basically operational efficiency strategies into their operation for the new world.
Great. Perfect. Thanks, Dan. Any other ideas? I know one thing that's floating around in the media just recently is I think it's 3 meals in 3 days, where we're out supporting local restaurants and so on. Any other ideas like that to help spur on business in our local communities and so on? Other thoughts, ideas?
I'd like to just comment on the what Karen was saying about a coordinator. So just in the short time that I've been out in the field, in very small communities, it's almost like I'm the first one to touch base with them in 8 months. So yes, social supports would be a tremendous thing, but just like when Anne put up the list of grants available, it's almost like, and I have myself 2 small businesses myself, it's almost like throwing cash at a fan, right? Where they're just kind of grasping at, they don't know which one applies to them. So if there were somewhat of a capacity of a coordinator of some sorts to walk into a small business and say, we know that you're struggling, or you might be, I'm here to find out which ones apply to you, cutting through a little bit of that, being more efficient, and just, you know, helping them out with that process. It's so daunting. Some of them are just surviving craft dinner to hot dogs to beans and wieners type thing. And these are the conversations I'm having right in the field. I think that coordinator, educated going in, even just me going in with Digital Main Street, I'm like, here's $2,500. I've only had a couple instances where they're like, that's nothing compared to what I need to get through this. But most of the time they're like, thank you. How do I do this? I want to get into it. Although it's a short time frame right now. Karen, yeah.
Darren, can I go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely.
So my vision for that is, you know, the outreach person is looking big picture. They're going out and then they're coming back to collaboration, like the CFDCs, to their chamber, whatever. Because yes, there's social isolation, but the other thing that I keep hearing about, and I heard it reinforced again, were the opportunities for our local businesses to restructure their local supply chains. And the thing is, if one business doesn't know what another business is missing in their supply chain, if they don't see that opportunity, that's never going to happen. So, I mean, we need some vehicle or some position or something to be out there who can do kind of an assessment of all the businesses, what their needs are, and start connecting each other as well. Because I think there's some opportunities for businesses to be the solutions for some missing gaps in other people's supply chains. And they're never going to know that about each other unless we have, either we bring these businesses together or we have somebody or some group who can generate that information. And again, it comes back to almost some kind of an inventory of needs, what they're accessing, what their gaps are, and then to go back and find out who the best fit agency or the best fit resource is for that person. And I agree with Cindy. I spoke with somebody this morning, and the social isolation is killing these people. They need supports. Like it's, yeah, I'm concerned about a lot of folks out there for sure. Anyways, thank you again.
Yeah, great. So we got about 5 minutes left. Want to hear from as many people as possible. Jim, you've got an idea?
Yeah. Well, hi, Darren. Thank you, everyone. I see some really neat stuff this summer from the village of Spencerville. They had events, and I went to one where it was a tailgate dinner with a band at the fairgrounds. It was all outside. You ordered your food, it was takeout. So I'm thinking, I hear the regional and the funding. There are a lot of funding pots out there, and the businesses don't know. But I almost think that there needs to be a concentration at the very local level. So every Spencerville and Leeds and Grenville and every Lynn and needs to get involved. And I'm sure a lot of them do. I'm just using Spencerville as an example, but you help all those businesses out in Spencerville, and I find the businesses are really. They like to partner together, and they're all in the same boat. So anything that can be driven like that from the local level, and there are a lot of local levels in the United Counties and Leeds and Grenville when you think about it. So now what are some ideas for the winter? That was summer and it was great, but now we're moving into the winter season. So what are some other ideas that the locals, because everybody really wants to support local right now. I find that, I think that's very true. So how can we do that? I know that's not I guess if it's an initiative, it's an initiative that we need to focus on the local levels for River County, is what I'm saying.
Right. And that's a good point, Jim. I know I take part in the Spencerville Business Community Connection meetings and so on. And the things that they're doing, like, they're planning some things for Christmas now. They do their annual tree lighting and so on. And again, it's all about getting the community and everybody involved and everybody within their market to work together with one another. So yeah, definitely. How do you get everybody on board to do that kind of thing, for sure? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's another one out there, this Rito Business Network. I know Cindy's met with them already, and I'm sure they're all across the counties. There are organizations like that if they can all get ideas and get it'll be like a snowball for the businesses across the county. Right,
for sure.
Snowball might be a good a good analogy.
Anybody else that maybe hasn't had time to chime in? Any ideas of how to initiatives they'd like to see within the next 6 months or so? Brian.
Yeah, I guess hopping on Jim's point there with stuff going on in our community in Spencerville. I think a lot of it is creativity. I'm not that creative, and sometimes when an idea comes up, I sort of sit there thinking, well, how's that going to work? And it ends up being something well received in the community and very productive. And I know I'm involved with the Optimist Club too, and I was on meetings last weekend for our Central Ontario, and just the chat in the group. And it's not something I can't set something like this up all the time, but even if it's just, well, there's material that goes out, talks about what different communities are doing, and it provides maybe a bit of a light bulb to other communities to come up with use the same idea or improve on it. make changes. But I think, as Jim said, locally is where a lot of it's driven, and that I think it was Cindy mentioned about or you mentioned about the 3 meals in 3 days. I was listening to Jason Baker on the radio this morning. I know Jason well, but that's a great program too. If you go to the local area, it doesn't have to be just Spencerville. It could be like Leeds, Grenville, and supporting the different groups. So.
Right. I like your idea of sharing amongst, you know, the small communities, the different things that are happening. That's definitely a good plan as well, because, you know, it's maybe just something that somebody else didn't think about, right? So it's all about being creative. So a couple more minutes left. Others that maybe haven't had a chance to give a little bit of input. Do we have any other ideas out there of some initiatives that they'd like to see?
Darren, I guess if we can take what Brian said, and I think we need a vehicle somehow to get those local things out there, because I agree with you. The wider they're spread out, other people in other local areas will pick up on those ideas and change them and adapt them for their area. So the more we can promote those ideas and creative ideas, they may give others ideas and be helpful at other local areas. So if you want to put that in a bit of an idea bullet.
Absolutely.
Somehow we need to get those out there.
No, for sure. And like I say, you know, I've heard some of the great things that are happening in Spencerville, and I'm sure there's lots of other smaller communities that are doing similar things. And yeah, those, and you know, be saying, how are they doing that? But you know, it's all about the community getting together and working with the health unit and putting these initiatives together. So. So that conversation actually went very quickly. We're at the 1:30 mark. So my understanding is at this point, you can exit this session. You can stay for another one if you like, but you can exit and go into your second group. Thanks for
Darren.
joining in. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Darren.
All right, so we'll get started. So in this session, we're talking about the types of initiatives that we feel that you would like to see undertaken within the next 6 months. Again, it's all being recorded, so we're taking these ideas and we'll take them offline after the fact, and just trying to find ways again that we can certainly support local businesses and different things that we can move forward with. So is there anybody in particular that'd like to start with an idea that they have for initiatives that they'd like to see in the small business, local marketing, promotion that they'd like to see? And if you don't, I can give you a couple ideas what we came with last time. And but Ken, we'll let you start because I see you unmuted. So Ken.
One of the things, I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce for Lyndhurst and Sealy's Bay. And one of the things we did is we put together a program where our township, the Chamber of Commerce, donated, put money into a fund, and local businesses sold tickets or anyway, the actual individual spent $25 on this ticket and basically got $50 worth of product for their for their $25. And basically we managed to put, I think, about $14,000 into the local economy. Programs like that, I think, would be very helpful to help people that want to shop local.
Right. And so just if you wouldn't mind, just so the products that you did get, were they kind of sold at a sort of reduced cost from the businesses, or what, how did that work?
Well, no, you actually bought a gift. I'm sorry, I couldn't come up with the name. They were basically gift certificates, right? So basically you would go in, you would buy for $25, the individual would buy a $50 gift certificate.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect.
Then the individual business would go back to the Chamber of Commerce, who got money from the township of Leeds and Thousand Islands, and our chamber, and we're reimbursed for the $50. So it was anything from the local hardware store to Wendy's Country Market to you know, a mechanical shop to chocolate store.
Right.
I can't remember how many businesses were involved, but it was a pretty successful campaign, I would say. And I think something like that would do even better if it was spread out throughout the county.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Other ideas that anybody would like to see as being an initiative over the next 6 months for our local businesses, marketing, promotion, that kind of thing? Carrie Lynn.
Hi there. I would kind of like to see something similar to the Digital Main Street, but for rural. So right now, Digital Main Street is supporting the downtown core, and they do have individuals that are helping rural, but there's no grants or anything involved with that. They just will be getting their support and stuff, where it seems to be the focus is a lot of just basic downtown. So I'd like to see something like that in the
Right. And that's something that came up in our last session as well. Definitely, very important that, not every business is right in the downtown core, and they can all use a little bit of support. So yes, absolutely. Other thoughts and ideas we have out there?
An advertising campaign for the county, kind of similar to like a shop local, but being able to cover the whole county, and you do that on social media, on radio, on print ads, basically everywhere that you can tell everyone about what the benefits are shopping local and featuring the different businesses. Because I think there's so many people who just don't know that businesses exist. They're in their own working world and they're doing their thing, and they hop on Amazon to buy whatever they need to buy because Amazon's everywhere. And so we need to try to be everywhere as well. And so by putting some extra dollars into marketing shop local from a county level, I think could be really advantageous.
That's a very good point, Jeanette. And again, similar point came up in our last session where this whole idea of the Ontario made, like who's heard of that, right? There's been no marketing or anything around that. And how do we market that? What do we do? And the point that I made was, I personally had not been to mylocalmarkets.ca. I just hadn't checked it out. So I happened to pop in during the session just quickly, just to see kind of what it was about. And it's quite impressive, the stuff that's in there. So I encourage everybody that's here to take a look and see what's available there. And again, that promotion of that kind of stuff, I think is definitely something we need to continue to work on. And again, those are going to help support our local community for sure. Other ideas that we have out there? Ken, you got some more?
Well, just expanding a little bit more on what both you and Jeanette said. I think a lot of people out there really don't quite get the picture. They're in their own little circle, and they don't realize that there's businesses out there. And I think it would be really important during this advertising campaign to really let people know how much more money is put into the local economy by staying local. When they go to Walmart and buy all their groceries and all their essential goods, none of that money stays in the local area. It's taken right out. Whereas if they go to the local grocery store, that money's pumped back into the local economy. So I think it's really important that I don't have the numbers, and I'm sure you do, but I know that if you spend money locally, it gets recycled and reused and a lot more efficiently put to work, good work.
No, absolutely. And I was in on another session, not this one, but where we talked about, this person buys something from that person and that person buys something from that person. And when it's all local, it changed hands like, 6, 7, 8 times that first dollar spent. So definitely something to think about. Jonah, did you have a point that you were looking? I thought I saw your finger up. Oh, and you're on mute.
No, sorry, I was just waving at Ken.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
I would like to add something.
Yeah, Deanna.
We do a bi-weekly newsletter on local business, and since this crisis started, I continued to do stories, and there were many businesses that said to me, "Thank God for the support of our communities." So people are going out and supporting their local business. Yes, people still go to Walmart and get stuff from Amazon, but I heard it time and time again that thank God our community is really recognized that we need their support and that they have been supportive. Just thought I'd add a little positivity in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's been a lot of, people who are recognizing certainly the importance of shop local more and more. And I know, Kempville, they've got lots of stuff happening out there. NG Green, they've got, marketing that they're doing where they're doing some co-op marketing. They've got their grant. So there's lots of good stuff happening, and the whole support local is certainly, very, very important. Other thoughts or ideas out there of initiatives, whether local marketing, promotion, how do we promote some of our local businesses? Oh, Rebecca?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I just had I wanted to build off of the idea, I guess. And one thing I think for people who are younger is they don't always realize where you can shop local. Like, we're a generation that does everything online. So if you were to do like a campaign where you compared like online to offline shopping, for example, electronics, my gut instinct is to say there is nowhere to buy an electronic, but shopping local can still be considering the source versus Walmart or something like that. And I think just educating people on what local looks like, it doesn't always have to look like a mom and pop shop. It can be a provincial chain if you're not getting it, like using electronics as an example.
Right. Yeah. Very good point. There's certainly, I think of, for example, just in Prescott, the source in Prescott is owned by is run by that local person there. It's not a corporate store. So definitely those are opportunities that we can consider.
Just so you know, Rebecca, there is still an independent electronics retailer in Elgin. If you want to drive over to Elgin. And he's really good.
That's good to know, because that's one of the things where, like, me and my sister, we talk about like, well, what do we buy on Amazon? We try and shop local, but for us, electronics is the one thing where we're like, I don't know where to get it. And I think there's a lot of people my generation and younger who are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll throw this out and see if anybody else wants to kind of piggyback on this. But I know in our last session, one of the things that came up was the idea of, a person or a group or something that could somewhat facilitate helping businesses. So I have this need. Where can I get support for that? Anybody else see that as being something that might be helpful or useful, or that can add to that at all?
So do you mean that people don't know that there's services out there, and how do you connect them to that?
Absolutely. Yeah, like a one point, you know, and that obviously that's a huge thing to consider, but you know, if you can start getting people pointed in the right direction as they're talking with people, that's you know, I think could be something that might be helpful. Other thoughts or ideas?
I'm just wondering with that idea, sorry, is that an idea for the consumer to have a one-point stop shop, or the business owner to have a one-stop shop? Because like I'm doing the Digital Main Street Digital Service Squad, and we are pretty much a one-stop shop for everything digital. And it's been we've had a lot of people say like, wow, that's a real asset. But yeah, I think that you could have it on both sides there.
Right.
But I was just confused, sorry.
Now, you know, they were talking more about like for businesses, because, you know, there's some businesses that certainly have pivoted and they're on the right path. And you probably have seen this, Rebecca, where you pop in to see another business and they just have no clue. Like, wow, like this is available. Like, you know, I didn't know, you know, and, you know, part of it obviously is the whole idea of marketing it. And, you know, social media is great for maybe, you know, some of the younger generation, you know, and, you know, I'm getting up in the older generation as well, but it's very interesting, the dynamics of, you know, we're seeing obviously more and more stuff, you know, social media kind of advertising. You know, so then you got to look at, if you want to reach everybody, is that the only way to go, or do we have other ways that we can certainly look at this as well?
I'd like to jump in if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
John.
Yeah. So I've been listening, and part of the challenge is that things are very fragmented in terms of marketing with social media. We no longer depend just on the local paper or the local mainstream media to get our information. But I think what businesses can do, and what we should encourage businesses to do, is to join your local business groups. We're blessed in North Grenville to have a chamber and a BIA and a North Grenville Business Builders. And now more than ever, I think businesses should be encouraged to join with their business neighbors and get involved. And these groups here in North Grenville, at least, are publishing directories, and they're tying into the Leeds Grenville business directory, providing links to it, so that you know, there are small, they're discrete areas online and in the neighborhood where people can go and find a list of a variety of different local businesses. I also think when we're talking about marketing that we shouldn't ignore the good old door label, you know, the sticker, you know, to identify local businesses and to encourage people to contact the different business groups. So, you know, a Made in North Grenville, a Made in United Leeds in Grenville door sticker can identify a business as being local, whether it's a regional chain or, as has been mentioned, you know, the source can be owned locally. So identifying the local businesses and enabling residents, you know, to identify and find these local businesses, I think is key. So again, the challenge is we've got a fragmented marketing. We have to, you know, do social media. We have to do the local media. We have to have those visual signs out there. People won't find you unless you've got an attractive sign, and they're not likely to. Businesses aren't likely to join a business group unless they can see some real benefit. And I think now is the time to really encourage businesses to work together and to join one of these business groups in their area. So those are my thoughts.
Right. No, thanks, John. Yeah, very. One of the things that came up in our last session was the whole idea, even in Spencerville, the Spencerville Business Community Connections Group, and the good things that are happening in Kemple, and how can, or sorry, in Spencerville, and you know, how can other, like, because Leeds and Grenville, we have lots of small communities. We got, you know, Athens and Delta and Lynn and Spencerville, and, you know, and how can they do some of those things potentially to, you know, springboard doing some of the same things and enjoy the benefits that, you know, are happening in other small communities and so on. You know, we're very much lots of little tiny communities that can certainly benefit from some of those things, and part of that would be, as you said, you know, business groups and so on, for sure. We've got about 4 minutes left. Other input that somebody would like to see? Ken?
I think it's also important, and maybe this is something that the county could do, but a lot of individuals and other businesses really are not aware of what's open and what's not open. And so if we had a listing of the businesses that are open and operating, it would be more interesting for individuals to get out there, and instead of just hopping in their car and driving there and finding out they're not open.
Right.
Good point.
Right. Thoughts or ideas?
Can I just add something, Darren?
Yeah, Jeanette.
From a service provider point of view, we serve small businesses, and you know, we try to stay connected with the chambers and the BIAs and the CDCs, and there's a lot of agencies that serve small businesses, and we really do try to stay connected with each other, but it becomes challenging in our day-to-day work that we do. So just I just want to kind of promote ourselves that we do try to coordinate with each other and provide all the information that is available to the small business owners, but it is a bit unwieldy and challenging. But in some time we'll figure out a more clean way to do it, but we do it.
Yeah, I hear your point for sure. Jonah?
Joan?
Joan? Oh, sorry. It says Jona. Sorry.
I know, someone made a spelling mistake there. I hope it wasn't me. I just wanted to comment that what everyone is saying is very profound, and I enjoy it. One person mentioned Elgin, and that's my stomping ground. And I've noticed recently that Elgin, even in the pandemic, through social media, specifically Facebook, have increased their business exponentially to the point where some of the businesses are overwhelmed. And that is a free, very powerful marketing tool, which I would certainly encourage small businesses to use the heck out of, because it really works.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. 2 more minutes. Any other comments, ideas, thoughts for small business, local marketing, promotion? Terry Lynn, I guess.
One of the other things that we've touched on is social media being so powerful and free, which is awesome. It would be great if those businesses, groups similar to North Grenville Business Builders, the Chamber, the BIA, if they were able to have quality training, social media training for business owners that is pre-recorded, that they could watch like when they're not in their day-to-day business, you know, to help improve that social media marketing for themselves too. So I know at the Chamber, that's one thing that we're working on for our members, is trying to get really easy to understand social media information, but also to have a contact to follow up if they have specific questions that are job related, or sorry, business related for their specific business too.
Right. Good point for sure. That's an excellent point. I'll just kind of put out one other little plug. We did some videos of some of our clients. Again, there's costs to these things, so you know, small businesses can't bear those costs, but we put a little post out on Facebook. Within, I don't know, it was 3 days, there was like 900 people who viewed that little 60-second video.
Yeah.
So, those things, do work. And certainly, like I say, it's tough. You're depending on how much or what you want to do, but you're $1,000, $2,000 to have a little video like that made up. So, yeah. So I think we are, Rebecca, if you got one more closing point, if you got some ideas.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out there, we mentioned the directories just for information. I think that the directories are fantastic, but I just look at it from a consumer point of view. They're really good if you're a business looking for another business, but they're not SEO optimized to have keywords for like, what does that business do? What does that business sell? Like if I search flower shops in Brockville, I need to know where the flower shops in Brockville are, or like grocery stores in Merrickville. So having a bit more of information on the directories would be great. And I also want to just throw in there, we mentioned social media is free. It's no longer free, it's pay to play, but it's affordable.
Good point. Good point. Okay. So we are at 1:56. I believe we can sort of exit our session back to the main screen for a wrap up. So thank you everybody for your input, and we'll see you back on the other side.